Susan Kennard, where the science meets the spiritual. Meet Susan, a spiritual scientist with a wealth of experience and a passion for healing and transformation. With a background in psychology and psychotherapy spanning over 25 years, over 25 years, Susan has expanded her expertise by incorporating various energy modalities into her practice. This unique blend of knowledge and skills has allowed her to develop her own powerful approach to helping others. Susan's focus lies in assisting individuals and groups, both children and adults, in clearing trauma on all levels. She is well versed in meta health, emphasizing the interconnectedness of the body, the mind, the soul, by facilitating the energy journey, healing journey of the body throughout the soul. Susan guides her clients toward holistic well-being, operating on all cylinders. Susan's accomplishments extend within the realm of writing. She is the author of Awaken the Light Within Your Heart, a book published by Hay House. Carlsbad, Louise Hay, anybody remember her? Oh. And she's been featured on numerous media channels, interviews, international telesummits, podcasts, also hosts her own podcast, The Spiritual Awakener, driven by her unwavering belief in the innate capacity for self-healing and the ability to create a life of abundance. Susan is dedicated to helping individuals reconnect with their inner healer and align with their mission all the way from, not London, but all the way across the pond from the UK.
Thank you so much, Jim. That's really kind of you. Lovely to be here. Thank you so much for hosting me in your country. I feel like I've flown across the pond a few times, but this time I've actually had the best time, and I've seen more of San Diego than I've ever seen. So thank you to all my beautiful friends and soul family over there that have been driving me around. It's been really exciting. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm not from here. However, what I do know is that we are all actually from the same place. So we are actually all soul having a human experience. Okay. I didn't always know that. And has anyone ever had a moment in their life where they've had an awakening? Or an experience that happened that they've said, oh my God, that changed the whole of my life. Well, I didn't have a near-death experience, which many people do, but what happened to me was I was lying in my bed around the age of 26, 27, which was a long time ago now, and I had this experience where I felt somebody was in the room. Who's had that? Has anyone had that? Yeah. And I didn't know at that time that actually it was a friend of mine who'd taken his life a few months previous, and he was trying to let me know that life went on. At this time, I was a psychologist, I was a researcher, I'm a trauma specialist, so that's essentially what I do. And I was overlapping my postgraduate degree in psychotherapy. And at that point, there was no way that I'd even thought that we were anything else than a mind and a body. Had a kind of a sense that the stars and the moons were connected, you know, at that time, but I didn't know that we were so magnificent. So I had this experience, which to be honest, scared me to death. Not quite, but nearly. And essentially I had a feeling that I couldn't move in my bed, and yet I sensed that someone was in the room, and I felt that someone was kind of rubbing my shoulders to wake me up. And this was an experience which I now call my first awakening, because it led me to research and understand that actually, what was it that happened to me that night? So somebody got me a reading. You want me to lift my voice? Somebody got me a reading. Who's had a spiritual reading? Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. So I had this reading. I'd never had one before in my life. And this lady sat with me, held my hands. It was in the days when they weren't remote. Yeah. And you actually saw me. And she said to me, I've got this man here. And I just started crying, floods of tears. And she described everything about Martin, who I write about in my book actually. But essentially, she told me everything about him. And she said all the trips we've been on, she was telling me all this information. And at the end, she said, and by the way, you're walking the path of a master psychic. And I went, nah. I'm a psychologist, I'm a researcher, you know, I'm an evidence girl. And so I spent the next 3 or 4 months trying to prove that that was not true. And those of you that know me, a few of you over there, know that I never talk about anything that I haven't researched to death. And so everything that I offer in my whole practice, in my work, I have researched. And most of the time, my soul family, which is my membership that I have, get to test it all out. Is that right, girls? Yeah. You get to test everything. So when I stand here and speak about the science meets the spiritual, I'm telling you this from a place of complete authenticity, that I know 100% that we are a divine being of light having a human experience. So anybody not agree with that?
Not agree with that or agree
Yeah.
with that?
I actually really love it if you don't agree. So when we think about that, we think about the huge potential that we have. And when we think about ourselves as just a physical body and a mind, it limits us. And the medical profession often talks about some symptom that we might have. Now, I'm a neuropsychologist as well, which is somebody that works with the metaphysical causes of dis-ease. My disclaimer is I'm not a doctor, I don't claim to heal or cure. However, what I do know is that we 100% can heal ourselves. No one is a healer for you. You are your own healer. And you will hear people being spoken about as healers. Many people call me healers, I get introduced on shows as a healer. However, what I do know fundamentally is that you have the ability to heal yourself. So the way that that happens is that we are actually here to remember who we are. The first step is to remember that we're not doing it on our own. Who's ever heard of guides and angels? Yeah? Okay. Who doesn't believe in them?
Wait, what was the question? Guides or
You don't believe in them. Oh, that's cool. So essentially, when we come,
What was the question?
kind of, who believes that we have unseen helpers, guides and angels? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I see them, but many people don't see them. And so we have these incredible beings that work with us, and they are loved ones as well that have passed over, and they come with us every single day of our life. And they've also been with us in many times before, but you know, we can go into that in another day. But essentially what happens is we remember who we are, that we're not here on our own, and that we can actually create an incredible life. Now, I stumbled upon this when working with veterans. I used to work with veterans with PTSD. And essentially, I noticed that when I worked with the veterans, they'd been told, you've got to take these drugs for the rest of your life, you've got to see this psychiatrist, you've got to do all of that. And I was kind of like their last chance saloon. And so I worked with them on a level where I actually didn't need to know anything about them. And this is really how I work generally. It's like I don't actually need to know anything about you because I get told. And I can see into the body and I get to see what's going on. So don't be scared though. I'm not looking at you and like looking inside you or anything like that. It's not like that. But essentially, I don't need to know your story. And I think sometimes, you know, when, especially if you've been a veteran and you've told this story hundreds of times, or you've been abused and you've been told hundreds of times, oh, tell me your story. But actually, a lot of the time, people don't want to tell their story again because they've done it. And so the way that I work is I developed processes where we can actually access the first point that we felt disconnected. Now, disconnected means our feeling of separation to self, okay? So when we have a separation to self, we then have something called trauma. Who's heard of trauma? Yeah, who's had trauma? Right? So we go through our life having these experiences which land in our heart, go up to our brain, it's called brain relays, and into our physical body. And when it goes into our physical body, it manifests as a frequency, and a match to the universe. So imagine you're walking about the world and you are a mirror, okay? And that mirror is reflecting back to you your beliefs. So that is the science of who we are. You know, we're not just this mind and body. We are an incredible frequency of light. Who believes that? Yeah. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that if you've got a situation in your life such as dis-ease, and I don't call it disease, so dis-ease, if you have a dis-ease or you have a dis-ease relationship or you have a dis-ease bank account, why do you think that's happening? Yeah. So your beliefs are your frequency, and it's essentially like if you imagine a ball of light, which is who you are, okay, and you've got dusty bits in your ball of light. So you're walking about the world with this beautiful, expansive energy, but you've got these little dusty bits, and these dusty bits reflect out, and they are your beliefs, and they are your traumas. But most of them we don't know about. And the reason why we don't know about them is because they're epigenetic thought. Has anyone heard of epigenetics? Okay, so epigenetics is essentially our thought forms. So we've all heard of genetics, right? Everyone knows about genetics. And genetics are blamed for a lot of our situations in our life. They're blamed for our disease a lot of the time. People have things removed in their body because just in case they have the same gene as their family, right? You've heard of it, all heard of that. Yeah. So when you think about you as epigenetic thought, you are your grandfather, your grandmother, your mother, you know, your mother's mother, and it goes down those lines. So what you're doing is you're bringing in that frequency to this world. And so your thoughts that you have today, let's give an example. You know, there might be something going down the family and they say, oh, this person has a genetic disposition, is that the word? Disposition, yeah, to this. Maybe it's diabetes, right? And everyone in that family has that. Is it possible that actually that isn't theirs? They've just carried that through as a thought. Yeah? Makes sense?
Yep.
So when we're looking at our trauma, if we're talking about it, we're only actually scratching the surface. You know, and I used to be a psychologist and a psychotherapist in child protection. So I spent the whole of my training, my work, working with trauma, and that's, you know, I've done that for like 25 years now. So essentially, we can talk till the cows come home, and I think that's a British expression, but we can talk till the cows come home, but we can't actually access those deep parts within the cellular frequency until we actually work with the remembering of who we are, okay? So when we remember who we are, and we remember that we're not on our own, that we have incredible help, we start to get this sense where we start to trust ourselves more. And this lovely lady was talking about love and forgiveness earlier. And actually, that is a massive key, because we're always blaming ourselves, we're always blaming other people. And when we actually take responsibility for our frequency and what we are attracting, that is our key to true success, okay? And yes, that's money, but it's also success within our own self, yeah? So when we're thinking about our self-worth, we can look at our relationships, we can look at our financial situation, and we can definitely look at our physical body, because those are all indications for us of where we are in our frequency. But the key thing is our mission. So you've heard people talk about their stories this morning. Our mission is the key to truly living a free life. We can have a 9-to-5 job, nothing wrong with that by the way, but a 9-to-5 job, we can work 24 hours a day if we want to, but actually, does it really feed our soul, right? So when you start to remember why you're truly here, you start to realize that those relationships don't work anymore, that work situation doesn't work anymore, and you start to notice that you get these pieces of you that you knew were always there. those pieces that are your light within you. Okay, who's had that where they've kind of all of a sudden realised, oh my goodness, I shouldn't be doing this job anymore. Yeah, and just get some water. Yes. Yeah, and when you change those situations, what happens is everything else starts to change in your life, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mindset. Would it be okay for me to take you through a process?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that okay? Because I feel like it would be really helpful for you to actually kind of really feel this energy. So what I did before I came in this morning is I actually created a sacred space in this room. So who's felt really good in this room today? Yeah, cool. So I created a sacred space with everybody here, and I created a space in this whole building. The reason why I did that is because I want everybody to feel so that they can hear what the speakers are saying. Quite often we're in our own thoughts, and we've brought that in with us. But who's felt really calm today? Has everyone felt really calm and grounded? Yeah. Okay, so you don't have to do this process, you're absolutely fine not to, but I'd like to take you through this process because I want you to feel the energy of connection. Because when you start to feel the energy of connection, you start to really remember who you are. All right, so everyone up for that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Let me just take this off, I'm getting really hot. When I work with spirit, when they start to kind of come through in channel, I get really, really hot. So just place your hands on your heart. And just take this time for you. And just take a deep breath in, preferably through your nose, and out. Good. And just keep breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then I want you to imagine that the next in-breath, you can imagine a beautiful golden sparkling light in your heart. And every breath you take, you expand that light out. Good. Keep expanding that light. And then I want you to imagine that down just underneath your feet, there is a beautiful star. And we call this our Earth Star. So just feel the energy, draw that light down, and connect into your Earth Star. And maybe check out the colour of it. You might see it, you might know it. Just have a guess. And then draw that energy up to your heart again. And then take it up to the crown of your head. So at this point, you can feel all of this beautiful light within you, up to the crown of your head. Good. And then above the crown of your head, imagine another star. A really huge, six-pointed, beautiful star. This is your soul star. So I want you to imagine now that there is a beautiful light coming down and you are in the spotlight of that star. And just feel that energy as it goes all the way through you, really like a beam of light. Good. And then I want you to expand this bubble of light around you. And now if you choose, you can invite in your beautiful helpers. You can call them guides and angels, or just invite the universe to help you. Good. So I now want you to think of a situation in your life that perhaps you'd like to transform. Doesn't have to be big, can just be a little one. But something you'd like to shift. And I want you to invite that little part of you to be present right now. And that little part of you is the part of you that has felt disconnected at one point to themselves. So I want you to acknowledge within your heart this little child. And I want you to say to them in your heart, I'm so sorry that you felt alone. I'm so sorry that you thought you were doing this all on your own. I'm so sorry the world felt a confusing place to be. I'm so sorry you forgot who you were. A divine being of light. Choosing to be human. With an incredible mission within your heart. Take a deep breath. Check in with how you feel. You haven't finished. And then connect with that little child, that little part of you. And I want you to let them know that you're going to look after them. That they are safe with you. And I want you to bring them into your heart. Bring them into that beautiful light. And feel that expansion in your heart energy. And now think about that area of life, that situation. How does it feel to you now? Perhaps it doesn't feel quite so important. Perhaps it doesn't feel quite so scary or worrying or unreachable. So when you feel ready, you can come back. How do you all feel? Good? Yeah? So that's just a very mini example of how you can actually heal a little part of you. But I want to tell you just very briefly about a very significant piece of work that I did with a lady. And this is a lady who happens to be here today. And she came to me a few years ago with secondary cancer. And she didn't know what was going on in her life because she was healthy, she was fit, she was somebody who really looked after herself. And she could not understand why she was given this experience. And the journey that we went on was uncovering what parts of her led to experience the physical body showing that message. So through time, through working with her, healing the childhood traumas of her experiencing, witnessing her mum being abused in front of her as a child. When she healed those parts of her, she was actually able to truly live her mission. She now helps other people heal. She's just sent her book off to a publisher, and she's part of my soul family. I have a Soul's Mission membership where I help people, in fact I hold their hand and walk them through living their mission. We do that by healing trauma, by healing perceptions of belief, by healing relationships, and by truly walking the path of who you're meant to be in this world. So, if you'd like an opportunity to work with me, I'm just going to get my little whizzy thing. I'd like to offer you something. This is very sensitive, apparently. It's actually not even working. Is that sensitive? Oh no, there we go. I'd like to offer you to be part of the 6-month program, which is my private soul coaching program. You get to work with me privately, obviously. You get to be part of my Soul's Mission group. You get my book, of course. You get channeled messages from me, but you also get 11 private sessions with me. What I found is deep diving into your life is something that you really need to do. It's not a one-off session that we do, because I feel like we need to go on a full journey. And when I've seen the best results, it's with people that have worked with me continually for a few months. And so I put this together for you, and I want you to have a look at what I'm going to offer you as just for you guys here actually. It's not on my website. Let's go this way. This is what you get. You can read it at your own leisure. I have beautiful galactic crystal healing chambers, and they were channeled to me many years ago. And when you step into them, a specific area of your life is where you focus. I have 22, including animals and children. So have a look at that. But for this event only, for just you guys, I offer this at not £4,999, but actually the equivalent in dollars. So it's $1,500 cheaper for you guys, okay? And I wanted to offer you that because you've actually shown up here, you're listening to me, and I truly believe that when you live your mission, you literally live the best life ever. You can travel the world like I do, have an exciting experience, and you're no longer holding on to those baggage pieces that people see in you every day of your life. So I'd love it if you would join me on this coaching program. Wendy, my assistant, can tell you all about it. You can go and see her. You can also get a copy of my book, which is called Awaken the Light Within Your Heart, where it has many different processes in the back of it, as well as channeling from my guides and a little bit of information about me. So thank you so much for joining me.